Did the U.S. military deploy a secret sonic weapon during the raid in Venezuela? According to witnesses on the ground, the operation began with an unexplained radar blackout, followed massive drone swarm and the sounds of helicopters. Despite being outnumbered 5-1, the small U.S. Special Forces team faced less resistance. Why? Reports indicate soldiers suffered from vertigo, vomiting, and internal bleeding. Military analysts believe this was a soft-kill operation, likely utilizing a high-power microwave device. More detail all in the video ahead. Based on witness testimony, here's how the event likely occurred. Venezuelan soldiers were on standard guard duty when their radar systems suddenly shut down without warning. Immediately after the blackout, a massive drone swarm appeared over the facility, followed by 8 helicopters equipped with unidentified technology. A 20-man team of Delta and Special Forces operatives deployed from the helicopters. The encounter took a mysterious turn when the defending force of 100 soldiers reportedly froze, leaving them unable to compete with a smaller elite team. Witnesses noted that the Delta Force operatives fired with impossible precision, estimating a rate of fire near 300 rounds per minute per soldier. It is theorized that Black Hawk helicopters were used to deploy this capability, utilizing disc-shaped radar attachments to launch a directed beam at the opposing troops. They reported internal trauma. They suffered immediate vestibular incapacitation, meaning a total loss of balance and paralysis. Some even reported bleeding from the nose and vomiting blood, symptoms consistent with internal hemorrhaging. While the Pentagon hasn't officially disclosed the specific hardware, military experts often call this a soft kill system. So how does it actually work? To understand the weapon, you first have to look at what it did. The most likely candidate for a weapon that creates that kind of internal pressure without external sound is a high-power microwave device. It relies on something called the Frey effect. The weapon, probably carried by a Chinook or a Black Hawk helicopter, fires a focused beam of pulsed microwave energy, not sound waves, that passes right through the skull. These beams are absorbed by the water in the brain tissue and the fluid in the inner ear. This energy causes a minuscule rapid heating of the tissue, less than 1 degree Celsius. But that tiny sudden expansion generates a pressure wave inside the skull. The consequence? The target hears a sound, clicks, buzzing, or a roar that originates inside their own head, bypassing the eardrums entirely. If the frequency is tuned to the resonance of the inner ear, it violently disrupts the body's balance, causing immediate vertigo. At higher power levels, that rapid tissue expansion can rupture capillaries, leading to the reported nosebleeds and internal trauma.
I be on the moon first thing when the sun up, shooting like Shaft, get a hit on the come up, #1 stunner.
There is another possibility, a weaponized infrasonic pulse emitter. Instead of a continuous beam, this device would fire high-intensity slugs of low-frequency air pressure below 20 Hz. These waves travel through the body to match the resonant frequency of internal organs like the stomach or lungs. High-intensity infrasound can actually cause cavitation, the formation of bubbles in bodily fluids. When those bubbles collapse, they create tiny shock waves that damage tissue. The target feels an intense vibration in their gut, leading to severe nausea and effectively paralyzing them with pain and sickness. Tactically, the reports suggest U.S. forces use this technology as the ultimate force multiplier. The result was that the hundreds of Venezuelan guards mentioned in the reports weren't fought in a traditional gun battle. They were incapacitated, sick, dizzy, and bleeding, long before U.S. troops made contact. This allowed a small team of approximately 20 operators to walk virtually unopposed through a much larger force. But that's not it. The U.S. military has another secret weapon. Analysts called it the Iron Dome of the Caribbean. They said the airspace over Venezuela was impenetrable, locked down by the Russian-made S-300 anti-system, a beast capable of swatting aircraft out of the sky from 150 miles away. But in the dark night, the myth of invincibility didn't just crack, it evaporated. The opening salvo didn't come from pilots, but from physics. The U.S. Gerald R. Ford, stationed off the coast, unleashed a barrage of electronic warfare so dense it didn't just jam the Venezuelan radar screens, it burned them white. The S-300 operators at Captain Manuel Rios Air Base were blind before they ever saw the missiles coming. The first kinetic strikes were surgical from a destroyer. 2 Tomahawk cruise missiles slammed into the S-300VM radar arrays. In an instant, the eyes of the Venezuelan defense network were turned into twisted, red-hot scrap metal. Precision-guided bombs walked down the flight line. One by one, the Su-30s and the aging X-16s parked beside them were engulfed in fireballs. 7 jets were erased before their pilots could even reach the ladders. It wasn't a dogfight, it was an execution. But the final blow was psychological. At 4:20, the roar of jet engines shook the windows of downtown Caracas. The target was Fort Tuna, the headquarters of the Ministry of Defense and the nerve center of the regime's military command. The strikes didn't level the city, they decapitated the leadership's ability to communicate. As smoke billowed from the ministry buildings, the message was clear to every commander on the ground: you are alone. You are alone and that no help is coming. But all of this is just a deception. The main target is none other than the president. We finally have the declassified timeline of how U.S. forces breached the heart of Caracas and extracted Nicolás Maduro. Let's start with step 1. The setup. This didn't happen overnight. For months, the U.S. had been tightening a naval quarantine around Venezuela. The U.S. Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group and the U.S. Iwo Jima Amphibious Ready Group were parked off the coast. The pretext was clear. The U.S. designated the Venezuelan government a narco-terrorist state, specifically targeting the drugs lords, but while the Navy squeezed the coast, intelligence assets were tracking one man. They waited for a specific window, a moment where Maduro was stationary and vulnerable. Step 2. The strike. It began at exactly 2 in the morning Venezuelan Standard Time. High above, several F-35 stealth fighters punch a hole through the enemy lines, destabilizing their anti-air defenses. Like these Russian S-300 missiles located all over the strategic high-value target. With the skies clear, the path opens for Delta Force helicopters to fly straight towards the mission. Here comes the deception as the helicopters flew. The jets started firing with more strikes as it hit Fort Tuna, the main military base and command center, and La Carlota Air Base, destabilizing Venezuelan air support. Reports from the ground describe widespread explosions and a sudden communications blackout. The chaos wasn't the goal, it was the cover. But how did the raid happen? We have to look at step 3. Under the cover of darkness and chaos, the Tier 1 operators went to work. But what is the exact unit tasked with the mission? It is the Delta Force, one of the most elite secretive special forces units in the U.S. military. Witnesses in Caracas reported low-flying aircraft skimming the rooftops, flying well below radar coverage. The team breached a secure compound believed to be a safe house within the massive Fort Tuna complex. Resistance from the Venezuelan Presidential Guard was swift but ultimately futile, as the helicopters lay cover fire. The operators moved with surgical speed, landing on multiple points. But how exactly the capture and extraction happened? For this, let's look at step 4. Specialized helicopters hovered over the objective to insert the assault team. While dozens of attack helicopters laid down suppression fire, the Delta Special Forces descended and started the search for the high-value targets. How did they find him? Simple. The CIA had planted spy inside Nicolás Maduro close circle. While back in the US, Delta Force built an exact replica of his safe house, rehearsing the raid until they could do it blindfolded. While operators breached the room so fast, his security could not even react to the situation as the sound of flash grenades disoriented the security guard. Using blowtorch, they caught him before he could even lock all the doors. Maduro's shock and awe froze him as Delta Force breached the compound. Nicolás Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, were physically secured. This wasn't a negotiation. They were detained and immediately moved to the extraction point. These aircraft are capable of performing urban extractions from buildings and refueling in midair.
Subscribe, like, comment. Catch y'all next time.